In this video, I'm going to talk about how to maximize muscle gain, aka how I gained 70 pounds naturally. In the bottom here, you can see pictures of me from 2015 when I first really started lifting weights for sports. I was 130 pounds. In 2022, shortly after graduating college, I competed in my first bodybuilding show at 155 pounds. Then more recently, I had a bulk that started in 2025 where I was 180 pounds and I finished at 200 pounds. Between these photos, I've put on a lot of muscle. I've tried every kind of training that you could imagine. And what I'm going to be talking about today is what I've found that works best for me and everybody that I've helped with this as well. So, we're going to be talking about training, nutrition, and recovery, specifically training splits, frequency, volume, and intensity, exercise selection, progressive overload, and when and how to deload, calories, should I be in a surplus or a deficit, how to find our maintenance calories, macronutrients like protein, carbs, and fats, and how much to eat of them, how many meals we should be eating and when to eat them, foods that we should be eating, how to adjust our calories and macros over time to continue our progress, as well as ideal body fat percentages, sleep duration and quality, and routines to improve duration and quality of sleep, non-exercise activity, and supplements. So, volume, frequency, and intensity. We're going to start with some definitions. Volume. How many total working sets you do for each muscle group each week is how I would define volume. Frequency is how often you train a muscle group each week. And intensity is how much effort you put into each set, aka how close to failure you get. All training, regardless of goal, whether it's hypertrophy, strength, sport specific, whatever, needs to take these three variables into account. Too much or too little of all of these factors can cause your progress to slow or even go backwards. Some people swear by high volume, low to moderate intensity, and moderate frequency. Guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's known for training 30 sets per week per muscle group. Others swear by low volume, high intensity, and some people say low frequency, some people say high frequency, like Dorian Yates, Mike Mentzer, Arthur Jones. Dorian Yates, 6-time Mr. Olympia. Arnold Schwarzenegger, 7-time Mr. Olympia. Both trained extremely different. Both had incredible results. What does this tell us? Everybody responds to training differently. There's no one-size-all-fits approach. There's no, if I want to gain muscle, I have to do this, right? So how do we find what works best for us? We eliminate variables and approach training like an experiment. So we're going to start low, build, find our limit, and boom. Now we know exactly how much we can actually train, right? Because it's different for you than it is for me, than it is for your friend, than it is for your mom, than it is for your dad, okay? So to find what works best for you, we have to treat this like an experiment. And that's what I'll be talking about today. Step one in the experiment is setting our frequency, aka our training split. Whatever fits your schedule is best. If we're looking to put on muscle, I would recommend 3 to 6 training sessions per week. If we're truly looking to maximize muscle gain, training every muscle group 2 to 3 times a week is ideal. Less than that, you're probably leaving some gains on the table. More than that, you're probably doing more than what your body can tolerate, right? 4 times a week you can tolerate, 5, 6, 7 times a week. Now we're starting to get a little excessive probably, if we're training hard enough, that is, right? If you're barely training hard at all and you're training, I train every muscle group 12 times a week, and you're doing like 1 curl every time you train your bicep, like you're probably going to be just fine, right? But we're assuming that we train hard here. My favorite training splits are here below, in order, honestly. Push legs pull rest is my favorite training split. When people talk about this split, they usually say push pull legs. I dislike push pull legs because putting the pull right before the legs, when I train my back sufficiently, if I'm planning on doing some barbell movements for my legs the next day, like back squats or front squats or RDLs, I find that having the back fatigue can really impact my output on those barbell movements for legs. So I start with push, then I hit legs, and then I hit pull. So then I have another day between my pull day and my leg day to help my back recover. Same thing with upper lower, right? Everyone says upper lower, upper lower. I prefer lower upper because, again, if I'm training my back hard, my legs aren't going to have the same output from barbell movements as they would if I switched the order. So that's what I did. I trained lower, upper, rest, lower, upper, rest, rest. Push legs pull is my favorite. Lower upper rest is my favorite for strength training, which is what I'm doing right now. But it's also an awesome split for hypertrophy training. Push legs pull rest is probably on paper even better than push legs pull rest, because you get that extra rest day. You can have more output per day, but it doesn't line up with the 7-day work week, which drives me insane. So I don't do it. I've tried it and it worked great. I had awesome gains, but I just hated not training the same muscle on the same day every week. So I don't really do it. But if you're okay with it not matching with the 7-day work week, by all means pick it, dude. It's awesome. Full body every other day, I think, is also fantastic, right? Full body every day, you're starting to get into some really high recovery demands. I think every other day is awesome. And the more you expose your body to these stimuluses and it's able to recover before that next stimulus, you're going to be able to recover faster, right? Or progress faster, sorry. So if I'm training chest once a week, I can progress at the rate of training 1 time a week. If I'm training chest 3 to 4 times a week with full body every other day, especially if I'm a new lifter, I'm going to be able to progress 3 to 4 times faster than if I were to train it once a week, right? If assuming it's being fully recovered before every training session that I hit it, which it should be if our volume, frequency, and intensity are appropriate. So for new lifters especially, I love full body every other day. Next, intensity. Okay, we've set our frequency. You picked your split. Now we have to decide how hard we're going to train. 0 to 3 reps in reserve is widely agreed upon to be where muscle gain is optimal, right? So an example of this, if you don't know what reps in reserve or RIR is, if you can do 10 reps with 100 pounds, doing 7 reps with 100 pounds would be 3 RIR, or reps in reserve, right? Reps left in the tank that you could have done but did not. Doing 10 reps with that weight, meaning you couldn't do any more, would be 0 RIR. If we're maximizing muscle gain, it makes sense to me to stick with 0 to 1 RIR, right? Why do I say this? 0 reps in reserve is more stimulus than 3 reps in reserve. So per set, we are getting more growth stimulus. So let's just eliminate the intensity variable altogether by picking the 0 to 1 reps in reserve intensity, right? I say 1 RIR for larger, more compound movements like squats and deadlifts, right? You can squat to failure, you can deadlift to failure. It's just a higher risk exercise, especially with a barbell, and could lead to potential injury if not done 100% correctly. So in the manner of safety, for the sake of safety, let's leave about 1 rep in the tank for heavy compound movements with a barbell. Barbell pressing, don't be a weenie, send it, just have someone spot you. That's what I'll say about that. Also, 0 RIR is easier to gauge than 3, right? When you're pressing and you're trying to get 3 RIR, you push and you go, yeah, okay, there, I'm done. I think I could have gotten 3 more, right? I think. I could have gotten 3 more. Whereas if I went to failure, I push, ooh, that didn't go, right? I put the weight down. There's no way I could have got another rep. I know for certain I could not have gotten another rep. So, would I rather pick the certainty or the I think, right? I'm picking certainty every time. Some people are going to start crying and whining and saying, training to failure all the time is way too fatiguing, okay? Grow up, right? We're all adults here. We can handle fatigue, right? 2, let me cook. I'm not even done yet. I'm like 4 slides in. Okay, this is going to be a very in-depth video about all of this stuff. Our bodies are way more robust and adaptable to stimulus than people give credit for. People who say you can only recover from like 8 sets per week per body part, I don't think have ever trained more than that in their life. It's ridiculous. I've trained way more than that, and I've been able to recover and progress, right? And you can say, oh, you're just an outlier, or you don't train very hard. I promise you I train harder than you. I promise you I train longer than you. And I promise you I'm training like more than you. Like there's people who say that just I don't think are right at all, categorically. So like I mentioned earlier, we have to find what works best for us. We need to find our limit, not the limit that some guy on the internet said you can't train more than this because it's bad for you, right? We have to go and find our limit through our own experiment. Overtraining is kind of the goal the first time we're doing this, right? We don't know what our limit is if we can't find it. So let's go find it. We're not going to hurt ourselves. This is going to be very controlled. But, dude, let's do it. I like training. You probably like training if you're watching this video. So let's train really hard, as hard as we can, for as long as we can, for as much as we can, and let's see how much we can actually recover from, right? And then once we find that limit, we know, okay, this is my limit. I can train here, right, at this spot, not worry about overtraining at all, and maximize results. Boom. Who doesn't want to do that? Before we pick our volume, we should probably pick our exercises. So we have our split. We know we're going to train really, really hard. Okay. We have to pick what we're training. So a list of all the body parts you should probably train: chest, back, biceps, triceps, shoulders, quads, hamstrings, and abs. Awesome ideas. Optional: calves, forearms, traps, neck, adductor, glutes. Some people are going to say calves aren't optional, forearms aren't optional, right? Traps aren't optional. I don't train them. I don't expect anyone to train them. If you don't think it's fun, don't do it. So whatever, we'll leave that at that. But I would train for sure that top list: chest, back, bicep, tricep, shoulder, quad, hamstring, ab. I would definitely tell everybody to hit that. Everything below that, if you want to, go for it, man. Up to you. So for our example, we're going to be picking push-pull legs. If you're picking push-pull legs, push days are going to be chest, side and front delts, and triceps. Pull days are going to be back, biceps, and rear delts. And then legs is quads, hamstrings, and abs. If you're training calves, throw it in with the leg day. It just makes the most sense, right? If I were training upper lower, I would put shoulders in with legs if I'm skipping calves. So upper lower would be: upper is chest, back, bicep, tricep, shoulders. But if I'm doing legs as quads, hamstrings, abs, I'm going to move that shoulders into the legs. So I have 4 exercises on each day, or 4 body parts on each day, sorry. Just to even it out, so I don't have like a 2-hour upper body session and then like an hour 15, hour and a half leg session. Exercise selection part 2. So each muscle does different things, and they all do multiple things. So to train a muscle most thoroughly, I like to pick 2 to 3 exercises per body part each time I train it. It is 2 to 3. It's 2 exercises for every body part, except for back and quads for me personally, right? Shoulder, there's different heads, so you can, split that up in probably 3, but I would consider those different muscles, if that makes sense. But Back and quads are really the only exercises that I train with 3 exercises instead of 2. So let's talk briefly about all the functions. Chest. I have pressing movements, okay? And I have flying movements. At the end of the day, it is the same movement, just with different leverage. I would still recommend doing both, right? There's also planes of motion to think about. I can do incline presses, I can do flat presses, I can do decline presses. I would try to at least hit inclines and flats, and if you can hit declines, do it. I like a really low decline. Like I'll take a 25-pound plate and I'll put it under the bottom of a adjustable bench, and that's as steep of a decline as I like. In terms of incline, 30 degrees is my go-to. If you like 45, you can do it. If you like 15, you can do it. Find it works best for you. But for chest, an incline press and a flat fly are going to cover 95% of the bases you need for chest, right? So if that was my first day, my second day would probably be like another incline press and then a fly that has a slight decline to it, like a cable fly where I'm coming up from top and coming down a little bit lower. Back. Back is a super complicated body part because there's so much going on back there. But we can think about it as 2 main body parts. I treat my back as 2 body parts. I think of lat volume and then I think of upper back volume. So lats, we can do pull downs, we can do rows. So a pull down for your lat, keeping the elbow in tight and coming down like this, right? I'll go to the side so you can see it too here. Keeping that elbow forward, boom, down. Rows for your lat, same thing. You're just reaching forward, driving that elbow back and keeping it in nice and close to the body. For upper back, the idea here is getting our shoulder blades to come rounding and squeezing. Rounding, squeezing, right? I'm doing it with mine right now. I reach forward, boom, rounded, squeezed, okay? We can do that via pull down, right? So a lat pull down's like this, and upper back pull down's like this, and a lat row is like this, and upper back row is like this. Biceps, elbow curl and shoulder raise. Everyone knows, boom, that's how you flex a bicep, right? Your bicep is also used to do this. Bring that elbow up. If you don't believe me, do exactly this. Flex your bicep as hard as you can. Keep that flex as hard as you can. Bring that elbow up. You're going to feel that bicep moving. You're going to feel it squeezing even harder. Tricep elbow extension. Boom, right? Everyone does push downs. Okay, everyone's done a skull crusher. Pressing, like dips or JM presses. It is technically just elbow extension, but it's loaded a little bit differently. So like the press and the fly for chest, I would consider extension and press for tricep a little bit different. And then we have shoulder extension. So just like how the bicep does this, your tricep does this, right? It brings your arm back a little bit. Shoulders, we've got pressing, okay? We've got laterals. We've got reverse flies. You can say front raises too, right? That is very true. It's still the same action as a press. The muscle's still moving the exact same way. Quad, we've got knee extension, like leg extensions. Everybody knows those. We've got squat patterns, okay? And then we have hip flexion, so bringing that knee up to the torso. If you don't believe me, again, sit down, hands on the lap, and just lift your knee up. You'll immediately feel that rectus femoris, boom, light up. Hamstrings, knee curls, okay, so leg curls, lying, seated, GHD, Nordic, all leg curls, all hamstring. And hip extension, okay, so your hamstrings want to bring your hips forward. RDLs are great because they really stretch and lengthen the hamstring. And then as you're coming up on the concentric, the hamstring shortens, okay? RDLs, stiff leg deadlifts, fantastic hip extension movements for the hamstring. Abs, hip flexion. So like I said for quads, leg to torso, like a, hanging leg raise. Torso to leg, like a crunch. And then rotation, like a Russian twist. is probably good to have in there just for general stability and core health, right? But if you're looking for just the looks, hip flexion and torso to leg, whatever you would call that, is really all you need for abs. My favorite exercises per body part, I'm not reading all of this. You can pause and look at it. SA stands for single arm, NG is neutral grip, DB is dumbbell, BB is barbell. Have at it. Pick any of them you want. They're awesome. CS is chest supported. So, our example training program, like I mentioned earlier, we picked push legs pull, and I picked 2 to 3 exercises per body part. So, day 1 for push is a chest press and a chest fly, followed by a tricep extension, a shoulder lateral, a tricep press, and then another shoulder lateral. You can throw a shoulder press in here if you want. Me personally, I feel like I get plenty of front delt stimulus from my chest presses and my tricep press that I don't need a direct shoulder press. If you like it, throw it in instead of one of those laterals, okay? Me personally, I stick to 2 lateral movements. Legs, I love starting with a hamstring curl because it gets that knee warmed up, gets some blood in that hamstring and just around that knee area in general. So then we move on to our next movement, which would be a quad extension or a leg press. Then I don't have to worry about knees warming up as much as I would if I started with leg extensions or leg presses. If I started with leg extensions, then I would go to a leg press for my second movement. If I started with a leg press, I would go to some type of really deep squat for my second movement. And then that's where I would call it for quads. If I went leg press and then squat, like a Smith squat is my one of my favorite leg days of all time, I would call it after leg press and Smith squat, right? That'd be it. Making sure to get really deep on those Smith squats. Yeah. And then if I started with a leg extension and then moved to a leg press, I would finish with a sissy squat, an even deeper form of squat. So if I did the leg curl, leg extension, leg press, and sissy squat one day, my other leg day would be a leg curl, leg press, and a squat movement. And then I'd move on to that next hamstring movement, which would be a stretch, like an RDL, stiff leg deadlift, GHD leg curls, all awesome hamstring stretch focused exercises. Then if you're training calves, I'd put it in right here, and then I'd finish up with some abs. Okay. I really like throwing abs in with legs because, like I said, your quad is involved in that hip flexion, right? And so are your abs. So while you're already torching your quads, you might as well throw some abs on there as well if you're doing leg raises. Day 3, our pull day, we're going to start with a lat pull down and then a lat row because I feel like lats can handle way more volume than upper back can, in my experience personally. And everybody wants that like nice wide big back, right? Everyone wants those thick lats, but it's such a weird body part to hit because it's all about elbows and angles with that body part. So let's really focus and hammer it first, and then we'll move to the upper back stuff where your body's more inclined to let that musculature take over. So if day 3 for my pull day, I started with an upper back row, then my next pull day, I would do an upper back pull down, and I would just rotate between those two like that. Then 2 bicep movements, the first one being, you could say more of a squeezing exercise, but just a bicep curl in general. And the second one, if I can, I prefer to have a little bit more emphasis on the stretch. Now that I've got a bunch of blood in that muscle, I want to start to stretch it out a little bit, lengthen that muscle. And then move on to a rear delt. Okay. Days 4, 5, and 6 will look very close, if not identical, to days 1, 2, and 3 up here, just with different exercises. All right, finally on to volume. So we have our split laid out. We know what exercise we're doing, and we know we're going to train really hard. Now we just need to know how much we're going to train per session. So to start, we're going to go with the low end of effective volume for hypertrophy, which is about 6 to 8 sets per body part per week, meaning we're doing 1 to 2 sets per exercise in our training plan example. So up here in my chest press, I would do 2 sets of chest press, 1 set of fly. 2 sets of extensions, 2 sets of laterals, 1 set of press, 1 set of lateral. Okay. This is going to be super low volume. Again, the intensity super high, but if we're doing push legs pull, we'll be training all this stuff again in 2 days on the 3rd day after this. So plenty of time to recover from that low of volume. How many reps per set? Anywhere from 5 to 20. Honestly, 5 to 30 reps is great for hypertrophy as long as it's close to failure, which we know that we will be training to. If that is too broad of a rep range for you, 7 to 15 is my favorite. That's what I love. I feel I like sets of 5 and 6 for hypertrophy. 7 just feels better for me, so that's what I try to stick to. Same thing, 20 sets of 20 feel great, but sometimes I'm pushing those first like 4, 5, 6 reps and it just feels like nothing, right? So I like a little bit heavier than sets of 20, and I like a little bit lighter than sets of 5. So 7 to 15 is awesome. This also will change depending on exercises and body parts, right? So hamstrings are a very fast twitch muscle fiber, meaning they produce a lot of force in a very short amount of time and consume a lot of oxygen. So hamstrings are probably going to benefit more from a 5 to 10 rep range than they would from like a 15 to 20 rep range. Quads are like the opposite. Calves especially are a super low twitch muscle fiber. You're just walking on them all day long. Like they can take a beating. So you can still do sets of 5 to 10, but I'd maybe focus a little bit more in that 15 to 20 rep range. But again, this is all different per person, so figure out what works best for you. Also, exercise. Do I want to do sets of 20 on squat? Yeah, sometimes, yes, but most of the time, probably not. Same with RDLs. Do I want to do sets of 20 on RDLs? No. I love heavy sets of 5 on RDLs, so I'm going to train my RDLs to sets of 5 with 0 to 1 RDR. Leg curls, I can get up a little bit higher, but kind of pick your poison per exercise. Try it all out, figure out what you prefer, stick to what works for you. So now what? We have our frequency, we have our intensity, we have our volume set. We actually get to train. So in this first week, we're going to record the weight and reps of every working set you do every day. So week 1, let's say I do incline dumbbell press. I do 100 pounds. I get 10 reps, 7 reps, then 5 reps across 3 sets. Even though the example that we said started with 2 sets, we're just going to stick with 3 for example purposes. The second week, we're not touching volume for any of our days at all. Okay, we're keeping it all the same. I go back to incline dumbbell press on that same day. I'm either going to go for 105 pounds or 102 pounds or 101 pounds. Whatever you can make, however small of an increment you can make that you think is reasonable, do it. I have 1 pound plates in my gym bag. I throw them on squats all the time. I have half pound plates. I have quarter pound plates. I use them frequently. So if that's something you want to do, do it. But the goal here is progress in either weight, reps, or both. So, like I said, week 1, I did 100 pounds for 10, 7, 8. Week 2, I want like 102, 105 for 10, 7, 5. I think I said 10, 7, 8 the first time. I meant 10, 7, 5. Or I want 100 pounds for 11, 8, 5 instead of 100 pounds for 10, 7, 5. Or 11, 8, 6 is even better, right? I want to progress the majority of my working sets. If you make progress in the majority of your working sets, we know that you can recover from that given volume. The only reason I say majority is because if you're eating in a surplus, which we'll talk about later, right? Your weight is going up. These numbers are almost assuredly going to go up if you're training hard, okay? Most of the time for me, every set goes up, right? Most of the time for people that I've talked to about training who train really hard and eat really well are in a surplus, most of their sets go up, right? And it's like almost 100%. But sometimes you're going to have one that like one of the last few sets or maybe the very first set doesn't go exactly the way you wanted to for whatever reason, right? Don't ditch and freak out just because you had one meh set, okay? We're looking at the majority of sets. But after 2 weeks, we've progressed. We know we can recover from that low volume that we set a second ago. So for week 3, we're going to add 1 working set per body part each day we train it. So we're going to go from 6 sets a week per body part to 8 sets a week per body part. If we progress again next week, we know we can handle that new volume. So we're going to add another set per body part per day we train it. As we continue to progress our lifts week to week, we're going to keep adding 1 set per body part per training day, which will be 2 total sets per body part per week. So our total sets per body part per week is going to be 6, then 8, then 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Keep going each week until you are not progressing your lifts anymore, okay? You are going to feel tired. You're going to feel fatigued, okay? You're going to be like, dude, you're going to be walking around after leg day like, I don't even know how I'm moving right now, okay? Keep pushing. If we're maximizing our muscle gain, meaning we're also maximizing nutrition and recovery, we should be able to push this for a bit, okay? If you're eating all the food and you're doing all the right things, you're going to be able to tolerate a ton of training, all right? Around 20 sets per body part per week is where I have found my limit to be. It again, like I said earlier, it's going to be a little bit different per body part, but for like chest and lats, I have found I could get up to like 22, 24 sets per week. It's a miserable 22, 24 sets per week, but I can still progress, okay? But that's like my limit. More than that, I'm not progressing anymore, okay? Quads, again, 20, 22 sets per week. Hamstrings, 10's a lot. 10's a lot for me on hamstrings. 12 or 14, my recovery and nutrition is killer if I'm getting 14 sets per week of hamstrings, okay? Especially when I'm doing RDLs. So let's keep that in mind as we're progressing. Sometimes a body part might be able to go up that 2 sets per week, and sometimes another body part might not be able to. And that's okay. That's why we're doing this the way we're doing it. We're pushing everything up. Something's going to find a limit, and then we just keep pushing everything else up. And then we find that limit, then we find that limit, right? So we're trying to figure out each body part has different volume and intensity requirements. That's what we're looking for. We're trying to find the limit for everything. So here's a simple example of progression. So week 1, day 1, incline dumbbell press, I'm doing 2 sets, and cable fly, I'm doing 2 sets. Day 1, week 2, I'm doing 2 sets again on both of those. And then let's assume I make progress on all of those sets. Week 3, I'm adding a set to my dumbbell press, not to my cable fly, because on my day, what would that be? That would be day 4 of week 3. That would be my other push day. I'm going to add a set to that press or that fly, whatever it is. Then week 4, assuming I progressed everything again, I'm adding another set to those flies. And then week 5, I'm adding another set to those presses. So you're just kind of slowly ratcheting the volume up, keeping the intensity high, keeping the frequency still. How do we know when we found our limit? This is where it gets really exciting, okay? We've been training hard for a few weeks now, okay? If for 2 to 3 weeks in a row, you are not making progress on the majority of your lifts, you have found your limit. And I've got to say, congratulations. You train harder than 99, probably 0.9% of people that have ever set foot in the gym, okay? But now it's time to recover and deload, right? So we've thought for ourselves, we've pushed our own limits and found what works best for us, right? We are like literally in like the top 1% of people who ever go to the gym by doing this. To recover, the next week is going to be very, very easy. Days 1 through 3, we're going to have the same weight as we did for our top sets in the previous week. We're going to have the sets. We're going to have the reps on everything. So let's say last week I did 100 pounds for 3 sets. Let's say 4 sets. I did 100 pounds for 4 sets, and I did 10, 8, 6, 4. Next week, I'm going to do 2 sets for 5 and 4 with 100 pounds. And that's it. days 4 through 6, that second half of the week, per our example, we're also going to half the weight as well as the sets and reps. So instead of doing 100 for 10, 8, 6, 4, like I said, we're going to do 50 for 5 and 4. And that's it. Like, you can get this second half of the week, you can literally get that workout done in probably 15 minutes. You're in, do a couple reps, you're out. Like, you probably don't even have to shower after that workout before you go to work. Like, get in, get some blood moving, you're done. That's all it takes. So now you've deloaded, you're fully recovered, right? You're going to feel awesome, and you're going to be wanting to get back in the gym probably. Next week, we start training hard again at the low end of our volume range that we started with. So 6 to 8 sets per body part per week. This is a great opportunity to switch some exercises around because we've been pushing the same exercises every week, right? If you want to switch some stuff around, you're like, oh man, I haven't really barbell pressed in a while. Dude, go for it. Throw in some barbell bench press instead of incline barbell press, right? Switch some stuff around. If you've got an exercise that's been hurting your joints a little bit, you probably should have switched it earlier, but now's a great time to switch it now. Remember, always track your weight and reps for every working set every single week, okay? Just because we did it week 1 doesn't mean we're not doing it week 2. We are progressing week to week to week, tracking week to week to week. Start low in volume, work our way back up, like I said, to just below our limit. So let's say our limit was 20 sets per week per body part, okay? Working up to and staying around 16 to 18 sets per week per body part, you can push that 16 to 18 sets a week for a while, and you'll keep progressing for a while. You'll eventually hit a wall again where you'll just deload and start the process over. But let's say it takes you 8 weeks to get from 8 sets a week to 20 sets a week, and 20 sets is your limit. You could start at 8, work up to like 16 or 18, and push 16 or 18 to probably like 12 to 16 weeks, and just ball out on progress and make crazy gains. So don't be scared to try and find your limit again sometime, because as you get bigger and stronger, it's probably going to change. When you're new to the gym, you can't do too much volume without it really affecting your recovery, right? You're going to be crazy sore. It's not going to be fun, right? Then you get used to the gym. You can handle more, you can handle more, you can handle more. And then you get really strong, you get really big. Bigger muscles that move more weight have higher recovery demands. So guess what? You're going to have to eat more food, you're going to have to sleep more, and at some point when you get big enough and strong enough, you're still not going to be able to do as much volume as you could have at a less muscled and weaker state. Like I said earlier, I said I've worked up to, with my back and chest, like 22, 24 sets a week per body part. I cannot do that anymore. Like 20 is like a hard limit for me now. Why? I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm using like way heavier weights for the same amount of reps that I did back then. It's just more recovery. So if you repeat this whole process that we just went through for a few years, I guarantee you'll be much larger than you were. Okay? I've been lifting for about 10 years. I had my newbie gain stage, and then I had moderate gains where I tried high volume, moderate intensity. I tried low volume, high intensity. It wasn't until I switched to this approach that I feel like I hit another level of newbie gains around like 2020, like right after 2022, 2023. I like blew up, and all my friends were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you look way bigger, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'd been training for like 7-8 years at that point. Like, how are you getting so much bigger? How are you getting so much stronger? Dude, I'm doing as much as I can do. High volume, high intensity, moderate to high frequency. I'm doing as much as I can, okay? Repeat that, right? Gain some weight, lose some weight, gain some weight again, lose some weight again. Over the course of years and years and years, you're going to be gigantic, dude. Like, there's nothing you cannot accomplish. All right. Training conversation over. That's it. On to nutrition, calories, surplus, maintenance, or deficit. To maximize muscle gain, a small surplus of about 250 to, I'd say even like 100, but 100 is going to be a super small surplus. But a small surplus is ideal. You can still gain muscle at maintenance and in a deficit, especially if you're new to training, just not as much as you could in a surplus. Okay. So, main gaining's cool, it works. And if you were to gain weight instead of just main gaining for 40 weeks, you are going to have more muscle than you would if you just main gained, I promise. Recommended surplus, so like a bulk starting point, would be about 8 to 10% body fat for males and about 15% for females. Much leaner than this, we're going to be impacting our performance negatively in the gym, okay? Some guys can get down to like 8%, be super strong. Some guys get to 10% and they're like, I feel weak as a kitten, okay? It's different per person. Figure out what works for you, but 8 to 10 is a great starting point for any bulk, okay? When you start getting it out like 5, 6, 7% body fat, like stupid lean, you're definitely not pushing the same weights at the same intensity that you were at 8, 10, 15, 20% body fat, right? Recommended surplus or bulk endpoint, 15 to 18% body fat for males, about 25% body fat for females. Much fatter than this, and I say fatter is like an objective term, right? Not calling anyone like, oh, you're fat, right? Like you are objectively fatter at 15% body fat than you are at 8. Much fatter than this, you can start to impact your sleep, the look, right? Like how you can't really see your abs anymore. You've got no veins. Your skin, if you get much fatter than this, you can start to have skin that becomes loose because you were overweight. Your health and performance, that can all start to degrade. You're going to be super strong though, and that's awesome, right? I'm right now 200 pounds. I'd say I'm about like 15% body fat. I feel like a friggin' monster in the gym, dude, and it's awesome. I touch weight and it just moves, right? Like weight I've never I've had goals written out of weight I want to move for like 10 years, right? Ever since I started lifting, like I've had these goals that I still have now. And like they're just starting to move, man. Like I just feel awesome. So you're going to feel great when you're fully bulked up, but let's not go much further than this, right? So, to set a surplus, like we talked about earlier, we have to know what our maintenance is. So, online calculators are a decent way to calculate your maintenance calories. I prefer to do it myself using what's called the Mueller equation. Okay? It's a complicated equation, but it's super worth it because it's super accurate. Okay? The equation goes 13.587 times your lean body mass, which is your total body weight minus fat mass. So you'll need at least a good estimate of what your body fat percentage is, and they're going to find your lean body mass from that. So 13.587 times lean body mass plus 9.613 times fat mass plus 198 times your sex. So for sex, 1 is going to be for males, 0 for females. So if you're a female, you can just take this whole chunk of the equation out. Don't even worry about it. If you're a guy, add the 198 in there. Then we're going to subtract 3.351 times our age. And then we're going to add all of that with 674. And that's going to give us our basal metabolic rate, aka the calories needed to stay the same weight that you are without activity included. So me at 200 pounds, if I were to wake up and lay in bed all day and not move and do nothing, that is how many calories it takes for my body to keep me 200 pounds. Next, now that we have the basal metabolic rate, we need to account for activity. So let's actually get out of bed and do stuff. Multiply your BMR by one of the activity factors below to get your maintenance calories. So your basal metabolic rate times 1.2 if you're a sedentary person. You work a desk job, you don't exercise. Not many of you, probably not a single one of you. BMR times 1.375 for light activity. You work a desk job, you train a couple days a week, that's it. Or you don't train and you have a relatively active job. Okay, light activity. times 1.55 for moderate activity. I think this is the majority of people watching this video, right? You work a desk job, you train pretty hard 4 to 6 days a week, or you have a moderately active job and you train moderately, right? But you're still sitting most of the day, probably, but you train pretty hard. Very active, so you can take a BMR times 1.75. You work an active job and you train pretty hard. Or you're in high school, you're a multi-sport athlete or a single sport athlete who lifts in the morning and then does athlete stuff at night, right? I'd say that's very active probably. And then think about in school too, you could have a gym class. So that's like 3 potential training sessions per day. Okay. Very active, you're going to take your BMR times 1.9. So intense, physical, legit blue collar work, and you train like an animal. You're a beast, dude. So do that math. You're going to find your maintenance calories. Next, we're going to break it down into protein, carbs, and fats, aka our macronutrients. To start, 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. This is why fat gets a bad rap, but fat is not bad. It's just a more calorically dense macronutrient. So, recommendations. 1 gram of pound per body weight from high quality sources is what I would set our protein at. So I'm not counting protein from rice, bread, fruits, vegetables, strictly high quality protein sources, which we'll go through on the next slide. Next, we've calculated protein. We're going to go to fats. We're going to skip carbs right now. 0.35 grams of fat per pound of body weight is about the minimum, I would say. It's a great number, okay? And then we're going to fill whatever calories are left after protein and fat with our carbs. So let's say 200-pound man like myself, and let's say I just did that maintenance calorie equation and I got 3,000 calories as my maintenance calories. I want 200 grams of protein, which is 800 calories. I want 70 grams of fat, which is 35.35 gram per pound for me, which is 630 calories. And the remaining 1,570 calories remaining, I take that, divide it by 4, because there's 4 calories per carb. That's going to give me about 390 to 395, technically 392 and a half, but we're not psychos, right? 392 and a half grams of carbs per day to eat at maintenance. So once you do all that math, we're going to move on to the next step here. Number of meals and timing. 3 meals a day is fine, totally normal. If we're maximizing muscle gain, 4 to 5 meals is best. I eat 4 meals a day right now, and I space them 4 hours and 15 minutes apart. I ate 5 meals a day for legit 5 years straight. Okay, I gained a ton of muscle. I didn't start going to 4 meals a day until very recently when I switched to strength-focused training instead of hypertrophy. I prefer 5 meals a day for muscle growth. Or if you're an athlete training like twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, 5 meals a day is the way. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. 5 meals, 3 hours, 15 minutes apart is goated, okay? We're spacing our protein out evenly. So if I eat 200 grams of protein a day, if I'm eating 5 meals a day, I'm eating 40 grams of protein. If I eat 4 meals a day, I'm eating 50 grams of protein per meal. Fat, 10 grams in our pre and post-workout meals each. Then fill the other meals roughly evenly. Not a huge deal there. Carbs, we want about 50 to 60% of our carbs per day around our workout. And that's total with pre and post. Then spaced roughly evenly through the rest of our meals. Food selection. Protein. Only cut protein from high quality sources. Remember, we're maximizing. If we're not maximizing muscle gain, we just want to get healthy, you can count it all. That's totally fine. I don't care. But if we're maximizing muscle gain, we're only counting protein from direct protein sources. Meat, fish, eggs, poultry, yogurt, milk, cheese, whey, supplements, right? Whey protein powder. Carbs, fruits and veggies first. 3 to 5 servings of each per day. I do 3 of each. Vegetables I like spinach, bell peppers, potatoes. I think potatoes are a vegetable, right? They're a whatever you'd call them, a tuber, I think. Potatoes, I would separate from fruits and vegetables because they're so awesome and they're so jacked up with so many good nutrients that are awesome for training. Fruits and vegetables, 3 to 5 servings a day. I would try to eat at least a potato every day. White rice is the next carb that I go to. And if I'm really pushing a ton of white rice, like 100 grams per 100 grams of carbs per meal that I eat white rice with, then I'll start throwing in stuff like bagels, Rice Krispies, etc. Fats. Count fat from the protein sources you got first, like steak and salmon. Excuse me. Then we're adding in unsaturated fats: avocado, avocado oil, olive oil, nuts, nut butters, coconut oil, and nut oils, right? Macadamia nut oil, all that kind of stuff. Adjusting calories and macros over time. I'm going to go pee. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Adjusting calories and macros over time. We've calculated maintenance calories and macros. We've picked our meal times and food sources. Now what? We adjust for the surplus or deficit to gain weight or lose weight. If we're maintaining weight, don't have to do anything. You're done. For the deficit, we're adding 50 grams of carbs to our meal plan wherever you want it. I would throw this in a pre or a post a meal, probably post. Then we weigh ourselves every day. Our goal is to gain half a pound to a pound per week, average our weights up throughout the week, and that's going to tell us which direction we're going, okay? If we're losing weight, we're trying to lose weight up to about 1% weight loss per week. So if I'm 200 pounds and I'm in a deficit, the most I really want to lose is about 2 pounds per week. If we're looking for a sustainable, long time period loss of weight. If I'm looking for a quick 5-week ripper, 3 pounds a week is fine, right? But for sustainable fat loss, we're looking for about 1% of weight lost per week. But back to our surplus example where we added 50 grams of carbs, aka 200 calories, to our meal plan every day. If we don't gain enough weight over that week, we're going to add 50 grams of carbs. So if I gain less than a pound or don't gain anything from that whole week, I'm adding another 50 grams of carbs to my meal plan. If I gain over 1 pound, but under 2 pounds, I'm going to keep it, right? I'll settle into that weight, right? And then I'll make the adjustment once my weight kind of levels off again. If I gained more than 2 pounds in that week, I'm going to drop 50 grams of carbs and we're going to see what happens, right? If our weight levels off for that next week, then we can add the 50 back in. But for now, we're going to cut it out. If you gained half a pound to a pound that week, don't change anything. You did it, brother. You're awesome. Sweet. Let's ride it out. If we do it again next week, keep it going. We do it again next week, keep it going. Okay? This does depend a little bit, actually a lot of it, on our outside of the gym activity, which we'll talk about later. Okay, but that is a pretty decently sized factor here. We're going to repeat this process, the surplus, right? Adding 50 grams of carbs whenever we need to, when we're not gaining at the rate we want to. We're going to repeat this every week until we gain, I would say, 20 to 40 pounds. If you started at the 8 to 10% body fat range with this plan, 20 to 40 pounds is going to be pretty awesome. Okay. This is going to be individual dependent, right? Some people might get to that 18% body fat at the 20 pounds. Some people might have crazy awesome genetics and have never trained like this before and get that after 40 pounds. Okay. Huge win. If that's you, huge win. You're killing it. You're going to look like a different person in like 6 months. Or if you're losing weight in a deficit, right? If you started at like 20% body fat, you get down to that 8%, right? We're going to keep doing this until you get down to that 8%. But for our bulking example, once we've gone up that 20, 30, 40 pounds, then we're going to go on a cut, and we're going to cut back down to 8 to 10% body fat, and we're going to be hopefully heavier than when we started the process, right? We're going to have more muscle. And then once we get back to that lean start point, we're going to bulk again, and then we're going to cut again. We're going to bulk again, we're going to cut again. But this isn't yo-yo dieting, right? This is like 6 months of bulking, and then like 3 to 4 months of cutting, and then like 6 months of bulking and 3 to 4 months of cutting. That's just how it is. All right, on to recovery, nutrition, body fat percent, and activity. Nutrition, we just talked about it a lot. It's super important. If you don't eat enough, you're not going to recover. Okay, I've heard plenty of pro bodybuilders say there's no such thing as overtraining, only under eating and sleeping. So eating is humongous for recovery, which is why I made another point in the recovery section. Eat as much as you are able to, right? Make the meal plan, eat it, stick to it, and you'll be awesome. If your weight goes up while your lifts go up, I guarantee you're gaining muscle, right? Even if you're super fat, right? You could have 50% body fat. If your weight goes up and your lifts go up, there's probably muscle being put on your frame, okay? Body composition, too fat or too lean, are going to be impacting our sleep and our performance in the gym, which is a big no-no, like I said earlier. Keeping it between 8 and 18% body fat for men and 15 to 25% body fat for women is ideal. Non-exercise activity. 10,000 steps a day is a great place for health, okay? Keep this consistent. With our nutrition that we're doing, right? We have a very set meal plan with a very set amount of calories. And in the gym, we're doing the same stuff pretty much every week. We're just adding more to it. So keeping your non-exercise activity consistent is huge, right? Because if you have 15,000 steps one day and 3,000 steps another day, and you think, why did I lose so much weight, or why did I gain so much weight in this 2-day period? It's because your activity was drastically different. So set a number, hit it every day. Just be ultra consistent with it, okay? We're consistent with our training, with our food, and with our outside exercise activity. Why is non-exercise activity great? Like I said, for the standardization of our meal regimen, right, in our weight gain. Also blood flow, which is nutrient flow to the muscle, which is growth. Seth Feroce taught us that one. Cardio's good. It's awesome for your heart. 15 to 30 minutes a day keeps it strong and is going to improve performance. Think about big high rep sets. Like I said earlier, squatting 20 reps on squats, right? You're going to need some type of cardiovascular health. Sleep. This is where muscle is built outside of the gym, right? You stimulate the muscle in the gym and then it grows outside the gym. That's just how it works. So the more sleep, the better, but quality matters too. So 7 to 9 hours per night. And you could say, I get 8 hours of sleep. No, you're in bed for 8 hours a night, right? If you want to sleep 8 hours, you should probably be in bed for 9. So how do we maximize our sleep quality and duration? Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. 6 a.m. wake up, 9 p.m. bed. That's me. That's 9 hours. No screens at least 30 minutes before bed. An hour or more is preferred. Try reading. It's great for you. Good for your brain, right? Read the Bible, even better for your brain and to make you a person. Read the Bible by candlelight. You're aura farming on literally everybody. Who does that? You. Only you. You're killing it. Sunlight upon wake, directly in the eyeballs. Sets our circadian rhythm, which is humongous for sleep and recovery. Training in the morning also helps boost our cortisol in the morning, helps set that circadian rhythm, helps us be more tired later on in the day. Avoid caffeine in the afternoon. Again, all great stuff for our circadian rhythm and helping us fall asleep. Our entire day should be set up to help us fall asleep at night, right? Training in the morning is the best way to do that. Caffeine in the morning and not the afternoon is the best way to do that. Sunlight in your eyeballs for a little bit in the morning is the best way to do that. Sunlight at night in the eyeballs, like the sunset, also really awesome. Sleep in a super dark room. Your bed is only for sleeping and breathing if you're into that. Don't have a TV in there. No TVs, no screens, right? If you could just have like your bed and an alarm clock in there, dude, and candles for when you read the Bible at night, brother, you're killing it. You're killing it. You're going to be huge, okay? Sleep supplements. I take these about 30 minutes before bed with some chamomile tea. Changed my life, dude. I had terrible sleep. I started doing this. Absolutely changed me. Magnesium, ashwagandha, theanine, zinc with the chamomile, brother. You're gonna be out. In your dreams, you're gonna be killer. Limit water intake before bed. I cut to sips, like literally just like every like half an hour, maybe an hour, about 3 hours before bed, so I don't have to wake up and pee at night. Okay, this is huge. Because if you wake up to pee at night, that's time you could be sleeping and growing. Supplements. Creatine monohydrate 5 to 20 grams per day. I personally take 15. Great for strength, endurance, cognition, and body composition. Pre-workout, boost your performance in the gym. If it boosts your performance, it means it makes you stronger. If it makes you stronger, it means you get more gains. Duh. Caffeine, beta-alanine, citrulline, glycerol, taurine, betaine, anhydrous. These are the big ones that I look for, these ingredients right here. Magnesium, stress, relaxation, recovery. I take this before bed, like I said earlier. What I really, really like and cannot give in like any better of an endorsement to, TBJP, trained by Jordan Peters, Dream Sleep, a European company, best sleep supplement of all time. Okay, it's 4 capsules. You take it before you go to bed with your chamomile tea. You are out like a light, brother. No melatonin, right? Because melatonin is a hormone. If you start taking it, your body's going to stop producing it. Everything in Dream Sleep is non-hormonal. I'm not sponsored. I just love the product. Omega-3s, great for hormones, eye, brain health, heart health, inflammation, immune system, and protein synthesis. If you eat salmon like 2 or more times a week, you probably don't need to supplement with omega-3s. Vitamin D3, K2, the sun's great for you, dude. Go outside. If you're not getting enough sunlight, which you're probably not, you should probably be supplementing with it. Bone health, skin health, heart health, brain, mood. Amazing. Turmeric or curcumin. Cholesterol, liver and kidneys, joints, cognition, eyes, gut. Amazing. Protein powder, I don't take it. Why? Because I get all of my protein from meat. But if you can't do that for whatever reason, can be very helpful to help hit those protein goals. And guys, that's it. It only took us an hour, okay? I wanted to cover as much as I could. I wanted to distill as much of my brain and my knowledge when it comes to training for muscle growth into this video. So it's just out there for forever, for my kids to watch, for my friends to watch, for you, random person, to watch, okay? If you have questions, if you disagree with anything I say, if you have a personal gripe with me that you want to like get out there on the internet, throw it in the comments or shoot me a DM, okay? My Instagram is right there. There's a link in my bio. I have a link tree, free hypertrophy program explaining everything I just talked about in like a PDF format. If you want that, go look at it, dude. TikTok is right there. YouTube, you're here. You're watching it. So message me on any of those platforms. Shoot a comment. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, if it helped you, if you learned something. Let me know what videos you want to see in the future. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something. I hope this was useful to you. You can literally accomplish any goal that you have physically in your life, I believe. Like, I went from a super skinny kid who was 6 feet tall, 130 pounds, and couldn't even squat 95 pounds the first time I went lifting weights, to now I almost front squatted 330 pounds yesterday. I incline bench 225 for like 4 or 5 reps, right? Like, I am so much bigger and stronger than I was, and I wasn't born big and strong, right? This works, I guarantee, for everybody. Find your limit, find what works best for you, and just push it for years and years and years. And you'll have incredible progress, I promise you. Again, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, anything. I'm happy to help. And please remember, training's about having fun. We're here to make progress and have fun while doing it, so have some fun. All right, have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching.